Watched Lemonade. Actually, I expected to be more impressed than I actually was. A visual album, I think, by Beyonce or something. It's just that Jay-Z never cheated on me, so I can't really relate, but, you know, I can imagine it would be heartbreaking if he did. Let's talk about hardware samplers. Why in this day and age would we ever need a hardware sampler when we have things like Contact and a million other soft synths? And it is true that they do make life very convenient. But part of what I did very recently was actually do a hardware versus software test within a sampler, and I used the same exact sample in my EMU E4 Platinum sampler, which is a piece of hardware. And I took that same sample and put it in Native Instruments Contact, which sounds great. But there was no comparison when I A/B'd the same sample with the same sequence. There is definitely, unquestionably, weird aliasing and things going on in the soft synth versus the sampler, which sounds very warm, very clean, and there's no piercing top end. So I picked up a few Akai S5000 samplers. And I don't need a few, I'm gonna actually sell one of them, but I cobbled together the ultimate sampler out of all those parts, and this is it. So I now have this thing maxed out. It has an effects card in this unit that was an expansion. I maxed out the RAM. I've got the USB card, which was an expansion. This particular unit has 128 voices, which is maxed out. A big part of the upgrade too is having this SCSI to SD card in here in place of the floppy. I have a 64 gigabyte SD card. I kind of have unlimited storage here. I can kind of do whatever I want as far as just sampling in and saving, because I have tons of room, and I could put lots of libraries on here and load them up. Now these filters sound great. There's a lot of different filter types, which is part of the allure of me wanting to use hardware like this because of the sound. Using the filters, the onboard effects, and then the modulation capabilities that these things have, especially the Akai, allows me to do things that get me out of my typical thinking of how I would do things in the box, and it ends up pulling new and creative ideas out of me. So although I am going to mount this so I can actually access it pretty easily, there are expanded features and much more simplicity if you use a computer to use Akai's Access program, which is this right here. They created a program back in the day that would allow you to control your Akai remotely over a USB cable, which simplified things incredibly. So you don't even need to touch this interface if you don't want to. The problem is that all new machines won't run older operating systems, and this thing hasn't been updated in a long time, so it will only run on certain operating systems. So I bought this for real cheap on eBay just so I could run an old operating system and run this old software. Let's load up a multi of some bass patches I created. And so instead of me accessing it here, I'm actually just accessing it here, and I'm loading it up, and you'll see that the drive is loading samples by those lights that are going there. So now I have a multi loaded, and I haven't even touched this at all. I'm actually doing everything right on the computer. And so I can actually open that multi if I want, and here's my mixer with all the different bass sounds that I have loaded up. And if I want to actually see the programs and edit the programs directly, I can open up each instrument that I created. All of these were based off of one bass sample. So I'm just screen sharing on my main computer, which is running Cubase right now. And there you go. Here's some of the raw patches, all made out of that same bass sound. And then something I wanted to do, I don't know why, just maybe to torture myself, was to create a multi and do some program changes to it so that on every beat it would change the preset, so it would change the patch. And I ended up using, because this has an effects card, I actually ended up using internal effects on here, which I really didn't spend a lot of time dialing, and they don't sound amazing. But you'll see here that that top line, which says number 1, every beat or so you should see that preset changing automatically via a program change. And you'll see that replicated down here on the front of the Akai as well. So I can continue on and on about the Akai and all the things I'm discovering, but I think that's enough for you to kind of get an overview of how I'm using it and why. So hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something. And until next time, this is Klayton, aka Celldweller, Circle of Dust, Scandroid, signing off.